Welcome to Essential Ingredients, powered by Next Gen Purpose. EI serves up thoughtful conversations with industry leaders and pioneers who support a regenerative future for our food system. The stories shared by our guests are meant to spark curiosity and inspire informed global change. So welcome to Essential Ingredients. I'm your host, Justine Reichman. With me today is Anne Carlson. She is the founder and CEO of Jiminy's. Welcome, Anne.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
I'm so excited to get to chat with you. I love chatting about animals and food and making healthy food for animals. What a fun conversation.
I know there's nothing better than talking about our pets.
I mean, we should have brought them, right? Although they might have been a little distracting.
Yeah, the barking.
Just a little bit.
Just a little.
So, Anne, so excited to get to know you. So for those not familiar with Jiminy's, just give us a little synopsis. So before we get going, people know what Jiminy's is.
Sure. At Jiminy's, we make sustainable dog food and treats. And what makes it sustainable? Well, we replace that traditional animal protein, so think cow or chicken, with insect protein. And it's delicious, nutritious, sustainable, humane, hypoallergenic. It's kind of got it all.
Wow. Okay. So is there anybody else out there doing this?
There's a few that have started now, and there's a few outside of the US, but we're the leader in the US.
Wow, that's exciting. Okay, I'm going to have to get my dogs to try Jiminy soon. Alrighty, so this is super exciting. So now tell me, what inspired you to start Jiminy's?
Well, I used to work for one of the big pet food companies. I've been in consumer packaged goods my entire career. But when I was at that big company, we were acquired. And as I was trying to decide what I wanted to do next, I was talking with my daughter. And somehow we got onto the subject of whether or not she wanted to have kids. And she told me no. And I got to tell you, it hit me hard. She was worried about what the world was going to be like by the time they grew up. She was talking about climate change. And as we were talking, I realized I couldn't do a normal job after that. I changed direction, and my pivot was sustainability and pet. And there's lots of reasons why I love it. One of them is that our dogs basically eat the same thing every day. And if you swap it with a sustainable alternative, you can have massive impact. You get basically all of their eating occasions.
Wow. Now, okay, first, let's go back a second. How old's your daughter?
Okay, when we were having the conversation, she was somewhere 2021.
Okay.
And she's about 27 now.
Okay. Wow, that is quite an epiphany for for 21 years old to be making those kinds of statements. That's a pretty large statement to make, right? And a pretty large impact to want to have on the world.
It's not unusual, though. If you talk to millennials and Gen Zs, a lot of times you'll hear the same thing. And what you're seeing a lot of times also is them getting a pet instead of having a kid, or having a pet to practice and see if they might want to have a kid.
I'm with you. I just remember when I was 21, I didn't even know what I wanted to do. These kids seem much more advanced than we were back then. I don't know. Maybe you knew what you wanted to do at 21. I just didn't.
No, absolutely not. But they're much more aware of the situation. They've been living in it. They see what's happening, and they're worried about, the climate change and what it's doing to the world.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. So your daughter inspired this idea.
Yes.
And so you go from having this idea to realizing you want to make an impact in the world. So how did you go from wanting to make an impact in the world to figuring out that it was going to be Jiminy's?
Well, I didn't know what I was going to do when I first had I've got to do something different. I actually considered whether or not I wanted to do something for people, like some kind of food. But as I was thinking about it, it was this idea that I can have more impact in pet than I can for humans, because we eat so many different things every single day. It's really hard to have major impact. If I made like a breakfast bar, maybe I get you to eat that for breakfast a few days a week. It's really not that much impact. But like I said, with the dogs, you get all of their eating occasions. And that's a big deal. People don't realize how big of an impact our pets have. There's a UCLA study that says 25 to 30% of the environmental impact of meat consumption in the US is due to our dogs and cats.
Wow, that's huge.
Huge, right? In fact, if you took the 163 million dogs and cats and made them their own country, they would rank number 5 globally in meat consumption.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
And
so
it's
just out of
US flag.
curiosity, if we take that meat consumption out of the equation, how would that impact the planet?
Well, it has a major impact, right?
Right?
If you can do it with less resource, it leaves more for humans. But also, one of the things I look at with Jiminy's is we're normalizing insect protein because, you know, people are seeing that it is a fantastic nutrient source for the dogs and cats, and we're proving out all sorts of benefits. There's gut health benefits. There's, you know, allergies, people who have allergies and dogs who have allergies. It makes them feel better. There's less itching, you know, and actually the gut health is really interesting. Less farting, less bad breath, you know, stuff
bad
like
breath, that's a big one. I mean,
Yeah.
the dogs really do have bad breath because a lot of people don't brush their dog's teeth. It's very hard.
Yeah.
So if you can cure that problem, that's right. Do you brush your dog's teeth? Do they have good breath?
Well, you know, the funny thing is I don't brush my dog's teeth, which you would think I would because I'm in the industry, but I don't. But one day, you know, after we'd been feeding our dogs, Jiminy's, we'd had the food out for like probably about 2 years. And I go to my husband, I go, you know, have you noticed our dogs have really good breath? He's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, no, really, they have great breath. And I started looking at their teeth, and I've got one of my dogs is 8 years old. His teeth are white. And it turns out that the protein is actually antimicrobial. And so not only is it helping with their microbiome in their gut, but it's helping with their mouth as well. So so we actually are in the process of creating another product that is a dental chew. It's going to come out this spring.
Wow, have you considered or thought about doing any sort of studies?
There's a lot of studies that are being done. We did a lot of them when we first started out, because even though, you know, I had this idea, let's feed the insect protein to the dogs and cats. I saw the UN study that said insects could be the answer to world hunger. And that's what got me going. I ordered crickets online, fed them to my dogs, and, you know, the drool started right away. So I knew we had something that they would like, right? Because drool equals love, right?
Right, yes.
But there was still a question as to whether or not the dogs could digest it. So we invested in the science behind this, and we did digestibility studies. We did studies on we had a hypothesis about the prebiotic nature of the protein, because it has chitin as well. It has, you use the entire insect, so you get the exoskeleton, and that's where the fiber comes from. So we did all of those studies, and the studies continue on. There's other people that have started to do them as well. A lot of our suppliers, which is great. They're finally getting to the point where they're able to do them. And we're learning about what it's hypoallergenic. You know, there's deeper dives into the immune response. It's great for immunity. You know, the list kind of goes on and on. It's exciting.
That is exciting. So at what point did you realize that this, I mean, besides the drool, did you realize that this was the next sustainable, you know, pet food out there, and you were going to make this a business?
Well, you know, I came up with the idea, and then, you know, I was thinking about, oh, this is not going to be easy, right? Because we're taking something that people have not thought about as a protein source for their dogs. So there's going to be a ton of education.
Right.
But when I looked at it, it was such a fantastic solution, because it had, it was all of the essential amino acids that the dog needs. It had this great nutritional profile. It really is a superfood. But then on the sustainability side, less land, less water, almost no greenhouse gases. And it's hugely different when you look at it. Just to take one example, if you've got an acre of land and you put chickens on it, at the end of a year, you'll have 265 pounds of protein. If you put crickets on that same land, you'll have 65,000 pounds of protein.
Wow.
It's huge.
Okay. So that was a no-brainer is what you're saying.
Well, for me, if I wanted to fight climate change, this was the way to do it.
Right. Okay.
It's a great from a nutrition perspective, but then the sustainability is off the charts.
And so as a business, so we know it's sustainable and it solves your problem. How is it as a business?
Well, I mean, it's been a journey.
Right.
We started out,
is this your first time as an entrepreneur and as a founder?
No, I did it. I've done it before. I did it once, working for a company. I started a company within a company, and then I left there and I started another company and I sold it to IRI. And then this is the first time though, where it was really this kind of passion project. It's something that I feel so incredibly motivated by, and so it's so important. So for me, even though it was not an easy idea, it was an idea that had to happen, and I felt like I needed to make it happen. And so when I started with some treats, and while we were doing all of the research behind it. And then once we finished with the research and we submitted it to the FDA, that's when we launched the food. And it happened to coincide right with when COVID hit. So we launched our food March 2020, which was a crazy time to launch anything. But it turned out to work out all right for us because we shifted gears and put a lot of our efforts into selling online. And it was a great place to be able to educate consumers about this new protein source. And so it kind of worked out from that perspective.
So Anne, I keep hearing you say we. Are you doing this with anyone?
Well, I have a team.
Okay. So tell me about your team. And are you a co-founder, or did you found it with anybody else?
I do have one other co-founder. And he was there at the beginning, but wasn't as heavily involved. But recently we've drawn him in, and now he's full-time with us as well. And he's my chief operating officer.
Oh, that's great. And how did you guys come together?
It's kind of funny, actually. He had this idea for a grass-fed beef treats company for dogs. And
was he also in pet food beforehand?
No, he was actually in beef.
Oh,
he was in the beef industry. And so he got introduced to me. We were through our network, we were, thrown together, and he approached me to lead this company for him. And it was about the same time when I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I looked at it and said, I love your idea of sustainability in pet. It's really where I've been going, and I want to do something here, but cows are just never going to be the answer. And so that's when I found that UN study that said insects could be the answer to world hunger. And, it all sort of launched from there. And Bill, he saw the light, and he's a total convert now. He's all in on insect protein, which is exciting.
And so it sounds like you guys have a little bit of a different skill set. Is that right?
Definitely. He's more on the operations side. I've been always more on the sales and marketing side of things. And then we brought in a team over time. At the beginning, I just asked my husband to help out every once in a while. He always likens himself to the frog that I put in a pot of water and I turn the heat up. At the beginning, I asked him, oh, can you help me build out? I need a booth for a trade show. I don't know how to do that. Can you help? And so he did. And then he became our first sales guy.
Was he doing anything? Was he working beforehand?
He was, but he basically saw what I was doing, and he was all in as well. He understood why I was doing it, and it's our daughter. So he he started working with me full time, and since then we've hired an amazing team. We've got somebody who really understands direct to consumer marketing, so selling online. We just recently hired in a guy who has enormous experience in the pet industry from the sales side. We brought in a woman who is amazing from the operations perspective. In fact, she's like one of those people, like any problem that you have, you throw it to her and she can figure it out. So our team is just built and it's amazing. We all work from home offices, but it's working.
Now, are you guys self-funded or did you raise money?
We raised money. We needed to, especially to do all that work at the beginning, the science behind it. It's not cheap because we had to design studies. We ended up making, 4 different diets when we would do it, because you had to have a control as well as, graduated inclusions on the insect protein. So there was a lot that went into it.
Wow. And you have covered a lot of ground in the last few years.
I'll say.
You have covered ground. So what's new and what's next on the trajectory for Jiminy?
Oh, well, it's sales expansion. We have moved into Petco. So you'll see our product line in Petco, which is very exciting. They made a commitment to sustainability. We're also moving into more independent pet stores across the country now that things have changed and consumers are going back into the stores. And then innovation. We've got a ton of innovation that's coming out. The dental treats are going to be here in the spring, and then we've got additional products that are coming later in the year.
Wow, that's exciting. So for those people that are listening, that have tuned in today, if they wanted to get your product, where would they find it? And whether they're in the Bay Area or around the country?
Any of those places I mentioned, but our website is a really good place to go. And we've got a little special for you on the website. And our website is jiminies.com, JIMINYS.com.
And for any of our guests here today, our special essential ingredients and next gen purpose listeners, is there a special for them?
There is 20% off. Just use the EI20 on checkout.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anne, for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I love learning about what you're doing. I loved hearing the story and about your daughter and about all the things that you're doing. I can't wait to continue to watch Jiminy grow and see about all these things and get my dog some treats and food and see if she can stop scratching.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do that. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
To learn more about these episodes and access show notes, go to nextgenpurpose.com and choose podcast. If you like this episode, head to Apple Podcasts or your favorite platform to subscribe and leave us a review. Visit the Next Gen Purpose YouTube channel to subscribe to our EI videocast and give this episode a like while you're there. Follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn at Next Gen Purpose and connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram at Justine_Reichman. Thanks for joining us.